Again, there's still so much to cover, but why don't we knock out the WWE programming that we're going to talk about today? Because Raw was Raw, good segment or two, a lot of other stuff you sit through, hoping there'll be more. In this case, there wasn't this week.
There wasn't more.
But WWE did a WrestleMania 40 kickoff show. They said press conference. There was no press asking questions. In Las Vegas, the week of the Super Bowl, a few thousand people showed up for free to see this. And I have to say, it was better than any episode of Monday Night Raw. WWE should consider doing this as a weekly show. A live press conference like this.
Well, you know what? Because it was only like an hour and 15 minutes long, and there were no commercials. And so we got the interviews from the main event talent. We didn't have to sit through the bad matches. And shit went on. But this was like remember we've talked about it, the Lawler Dundee special 1 hour, and in the Memphis case, 1.5 hour television program they did before that loser leave town match they did in June of '83.
Yeah.
In that it was just the two participants sitting and promoing it, talking to each other about it, and showing, clips from their various rivalries in the past as promotional material. And the press conference, like you said, there were press there. They just didn't ask any questions. And otherwise, it was people that, as you said, came for free to the big arena there on the theory that I guess it would be easier to draw a live crowd, even to see The Rock and all the top wrestling stars and everything for free if it wasn't Las Vegas. They're used to seeing Wayne Newton walk down the fucking street, right? So they're a little harder audience.
Well, again, it's something that, I don't know how much...
In Tuscaloosa, Alabama, they would have drawn a huge crowd.
Again, I don't know how many people would walk into a room to see The Rock if he's just going to be doing his thing if you're not a fan of wrestling. That's a big question. But the other thing is, how much advance notice was there? Because I didn't hear too much about this until they just announced it on TV. It's coming up this week. We'll find out what's happening.
Yeah, no, I'm fucking with them. There was not a lot of advance notice to this, so people just, they said, well, we'll go down and see what's going on.
Good idea. If the Super Bowl's happening someplace and you know that for that week you're going to have fans from all over the world coming into town, good idea for WWE to go to town and do something?
I don't know that they couldn't have done this in any other major city in the country. They probably could have done more people in New York. I don't know if it had any, maybe that was the concept they had that, the Super Bowl, but it didn't look like.
All the media's there.
If you've gone to, none of the media got to ask any questions. And did any media cover this that wouldn't normally cover something like this that the WWE did? Did this get extraordinary or extraneous or unusual amounts of regular mainstream media coverage?
This got the usual coverage from Wrestle Hugs and Wrestle Smile.
Wrestle Kisses.
Grapple Kiss.
That's what I'm saying. Remember the thing they did in Boston with Tyson and DX and everything before WrestleMania, whatever number that was in '98. They had a couple thousand people show up there. It was was not as well controlled as this. It was a fucking mob scene. But I think they could have done in any major city, Chicago, New York, whatever, they could have done what they did here on any weekend, just on the power of their television, their names. They had a couple thousand people there. I think they could do that. I don't know the Super Bowl contributed, is what I'm saying, to answer your question.
Hey, let me say a compliment for someone I always kill for his awful work. This is the setting where Michael Cole actually works really well.
Yes. And he's not only is he not being overproduced in his ear by either Kevin Dunn or the evil madman, but also this is a kind of a more sports-oriented, laid-back, sporting hosting talk before the event show type of thing. He's good with that. He wasn't trained to do these things a specifically opposite way. And Pat McAfee's good with this. And Big E, it looks like they might be trying out. He's still not come back from the neck injury, and he's not said whether he's made his decision he's going to or not. So they may be trying him out as a commentator, interviewer, personality to do these type of shows, and then they brought Punk in, which led to a couple of inside jokes, probably for a small portion of the audience, including us. But that's obviously, we talked about it. Punk's already done commentary for one of these smaller MMA groups, and he's got background in UFC, and he's glib as fuck. And we answered the question, or you asked me the question, should Punk do commentary and he's back? And I said, I don't know if he should jump into it right away and be on TV every fucking week when he's just got hurt, and it might get old before he's ready to come back. But on stuff like this, and then when he is ready, that's a perfect way to get him back involved in the mix somehow, because he can, and eventually when Father Time works on him, he can be the crossover guy that can do expert commentary on a UFC or a WWE event. So anyway, the meat of the matter was the main event thing, but to get there, they had Triple H do the rah-rah speech, and Heyman did a great promo in the back. It was kind of a pre-tape thing. But basically, Triple H, they introduced him, and he gave the history of WrestleMania from number 1 all the way through all these names, blah, blah, but gave a rah-rah speech. And
there's one big name he didn't mention. There's one name that has always been considered a name to be mentioned at WrestleMania that no one mentioned at all at this event.
No. And that's the question I was about to ask you. Was Triple H really heavy at the end on, it's a new company, it's a new era, it's an all new WWE with new people involved. Nobody here has fucking done evil things like you've heard. It almost sounded like that, didn't it?
He should just come out and say, only one woman in this company has ever seen my dick. Just one. And that's my wife. That would go a long way, too.
Well, now, hold on. Because we have to think, well, now.
No, I'm not alluding to anything in either of you, but.
No, I'm just thinking, if nothing else, then remember all the times DX used to pull their pants down and get censored.
Oh, that's true.
How many female production people? The Jennifer Good, I guess, is long gone. She used to work in the office or in the production company.
Yeah, he's in a rough position because he's still out there, the face of the company, and the company still hasn't really said anything about Vince. The one thing about all this Rock stuff was it took a lot of the attention away from Vince, because that was the overwhelming thing on top of everything, and that was the Royal Rumble weekend. It's a new company. Maybe get rid of the tagline "Together Forever." That may not work anymore. That was a Vince thing, I believe. Let's get rid of "Together Forever." Forever together. We want to
together
forever be separated, maybe, Vince.
Yeah, we'd like to be separated right when you cross the county line to Rikers Island. We'd like to be.
The other thing is, in a lot of respects, and there's still there's still a reckoning to come for everything that happened in the past. It does feel like a new company. The way they're dealing with things, the small changes to production, the way stars are being presented, the kind of deals that some guys are getting structured.
Yeah.
The ownership, obviously, the flywheel, the people who are in charge. It is a new company. And, Vince still has shares, so he's not completely gone away. But the belief is that he doesn't have enough shares to be a problem or to really influence
hold on.
anything.
I have shares in some companies, but I don't have enough shares to where whether I'm here or not, they would ever say, well, he's gone away. He owns 12% of the thing, but there are entities that are put in place that own more of that. He can't force his way back on the board. He can't. I mean, he can call anybody on the phone, I guess, and say anything he wants to them, but they don't have to listen to him anymore, right?
I guess. Wouldn't that be something? If Vince is calling again, tell him I'm busy.
Yeah.
Tell him I'm treating women respectfully over here. That's very interesting. But again, Triple H, he's still there. he is in a lot of ways the face of the company, the Dana White of WWE. And obviously it's going to play into all this stuff with The Rock. That seems rather apparent now. But they do need to kind of, in multiple ways, show that it's a new company, be a new company. And a lot of the things that they're doing are looking in that direction, but they still have to answer for a lot of things.
Well,
the new company has to answer for a lot of things.
Yeah, such as, how did you tolerate his presence for over the last year when you didn't necessarily have to, depending on what you knew? But now we're finding out that not only maybe TKO or Endeavor or whoever was supposed to know these things didn't know these things. Apparently, and we'll get to that later on, in our apparently now weekly Vince segment, Vince had these agreements drawn up. The NDA with Janelle Grant, and I know I'm getting off on a side topic here. We'll talk about it again. Remind me to bring it up. But there were 3 copies of it. One for her, one for him, and one for the WWE. He never signed the copy that she got. She signed all of them. Then he privately signed the one that covered him and signed the one that covered the WWE and put those away without telling the WWE that they existed. Have you read about this?
I saw something about that, yeah.
So what the fuck kind of kabuki-ish bullshit even? And then he didn't sign her copy of the NDA, but he sent the first $1 million payment. And then apparently had done this other under the table paperwork to say if anything ever came of it, he could produce an NDA that she couldn't talk about the WWE and an NDA that she couldn't talk about him. But the WWE didn't even know that they existed. And all right. Anyway.
Can you imagine the first time, like after any of these people heard these stories about Vince, like, oh my God, I'll never see him the same way again. Anyone who didn't know. And then the next time he walks in the room, he's got that new look. Like, oh my God, he's really doubling down and leaning into this, isn't he?
Well, speaking of doubling down and leaning in, let's get finished with Triple H because he did the all new thing numerously. And then, did you notice the dramatic milk that he did for his "Are you ready?
Are you ready?"
And the dramatic, it just looked like it looked like he was Mitch McConnell from a few months ago. He just froze up at the press conference. He was just standing there. He was dramatic milking, but the people that came didn't know what he was milking. And then the "Are you ready?" it got tepid response. And "You ain't seen nothing yet" got eh. So anyway.
Yeah, whenever someone says you ain't seen nothing yet, it's like the last time you see him on TV or they're gone like 2 weeks later. Roddy Piper did that once at the Hall of Fame. You ain't seen nothing yet. And then we never saw him again.
And besides, the reason why that line is famous was because it came right after people had seen the first sound motion fucking picture scene. And they really hadn't seen anything before that, really. But now we've all seen a lot of something. So you can't really just say that, just bandy that phrase. You ain't seen nothing yet. Yeah, we've seen way too much shit by now. Sound, that was a big fucking deal. Now we've been bombarded.
You ain't read nothing yet. When do we hear what we're going to read next?
Yes. So I know they brought Bianca out and they did some other stuff, but I had to skip to the main event business. Are you mad at me because I missed out on Rhea and Becky arguing with each other?
No, it was all right, but I think everyone was kind of tuning in for the same thing, and this was kind of the stuff leading up to it, but it was 1 hour, so it kind of all worked, and it wasn't anything yet. I watched it. I didn't leave.
Yeah.
If it was a 2-hour thing, I may not have, but it was good. I like them doing this. It's so much better than just doing these weird segments on Raw. Them face-to-face on a stage works better sometimes than doing prearranged stuff in a ring. So I thought this was good.
Well, then finally, we got to what we had all been waiting for, the main event of the main event of the press conference to determine the main event, even though there was no press conferring. Seth comes out and he calls out Cody to make his decision that he's been demanding, and he gets Roman instead. And there's Seth and Roman go face to face. And I was thinking at this point, Plumber Moxley must be ready to jump off the bridge between Kentucky and Ohio.
No way. I'm going face to face with Hechicero.
He was in the group with these two guys, and now these two guys are the two standard bearers of the biggest company in the world, and the Plumber is having bad matches with fucking outlaw talent on the B show.
But I get to sit next to my wife on the plane. In fact, she doesn't take her eyes off me the whole time.
Dope. I mean, that's dope that he gets to do that. I'm not talking about that's what she might be looking for. I don't want anyone to misconstrue that.
No one was construing that.
Well, anyway, so Roman. You mother. All right. Anyway, so then Roman says, hey, you know what? Cody Rhodes, like a lot of people, when they hesitate, the moment passes. It's my decision now. And I choose The Rock. And the fans boo. They took more time than this, but I'm getting to the meat of the matter. Roman, again, cuts a great promo, and he seems so natural. But they've already sloughed off Cody, and now I choose The Rock. I'm going to fight The Rock. And the fans boo, and the Rock music plays, and the fans boo The Rock. But you could tell in this one, here's the thing. The reason why that we believe that this was not their original plan, besides the fact that it's pretty obvious it wasn't their original plan, before Punk got hurt, before Brock became a goddamn pariah, before The Rock decided he was going to get this $30 million and decided, hey, I can save the day, whatever. They were going to go with with Roman and Cody. And
Seth and CM Punk.
Yes. And the reason why that you can point back to, they have done a masterful pivot. The pivoting is about to begin here. But the only thing that they couldn't wipe out completely, they may have even left the wiggle room on purpose. I don't know. But the only thing they can't wipe out completely that was said on live TV was when Cody said, I am going to finish the story, but not at WrestleMania. And, now they can, I think they're ignoring that completely, or if they don't, they might try to close that loophole up with saying, well, it's not going to be completely finished or whatever the fuck. But it looks pretty obvious that's what they were going to do until the backlash made them rethink their strategy. And then I think The Rock, with some egg on his face, tried to turn, as the person whose name we're not allowed to speak anymore used to say, turn a negative into a positive and figure out a way where he can again say, well, because he had heavy input in this. So he's probably tried to figure out the way, well, we can do it like this. And it's like we meant to do it all along, and I'll be a heel. Because now he gets a chance to, every great star, actor, wrestling star, whatever, at one point wants to be the villain. So he gets to do that, but it wasn't what they were originally expectifying.
No, and we'll go into the different theories later on, but they did hear what the smartest thing to do for professional wrestling is. Lean into what's working.
Yes.
And this is something that WWE traditionally has not done well. They've ignored fan reaction because they have a story they want to get to their way. They leaned into what was, as hot a wrestling chatter online as there was. The interest in this stuff blew up. So they could have screwed it up. Instead, they made everything better on this event, this WrestleMania kickoff. I'll let you go back to reviewing it, but they leaned into it, they pivoted, and they did everything right.
Well, you could tell that Rock was coming out with a completely different objective because of the expression on his face and the way he walked out on this one, as opposed to the previous, as he appeared twice now.
Surprise pops, the 2 surprise pops he got. Yeah.
Well, but also, and this wasn't even a real, I won't say a real crowd, but this wasn't a ticket purchasing crowd at a house show or a TV taping. This was a last minute thing put together. And there were a lot of Rock chants, more than there were when the ticket purchasing patrons were involved. So you can't do a, fair comparison, but just his, as Howard Finkel, bless him, used to say, his demeanor, the expression on his face, his body language, the way he walked and moved from the start when he came out, and the way he was reacting to the boos. You could tell that he was out there. His objective was he knew he was going to slap Cody in the face. He wanted him to boo, but he wanted to show that he was getting more and more ticked off by this disrespect that he was getting, not only from the people, but then when it came from Cody, is his motivation. If he's done the acting lessons, right? That was his motivation for his character. But he did a great job of it, because last week he came out and showed his arm on the camera on the handheld where he had goosebumps from the cheers of all the people. And now they're booing him and he's getting surly about it. So this was when they had, between last Friday night and the stuff that happened over the weekend, and then Monday's reactions, they had put this together. And now he knew this is what he had to fucking do. And wherever they're going from here, as you said, a lot better fucking than we thought we were going to get, and we probably were going to get. And the people were chanting, we want Cody. And then there'd be a smaller, response. We want Cody. Cody sucks. We want Cody. And one guy in the back, Rocky, some fucking drunk. But it went at a snail's pace for a while, because Rock was letting the people react and just milking it. And, he asked if the people, will Rock versus Roman Reigns be the biggest match ever? And they booed. Oh, Rock loves the passion. And he tried to talk again. They start chanting, we want Cody. And that's when he introduces everybody to the Cody crybabies, because there is some segment of the audience, right, that likes Cody.
He introduced that phrase on Pat McAfee's show where he kind of went heel and was lashing out a little bit, somewhat in character at the fans. He calls them the Cody crybabies. Maybe not the most creative thing, but he's an anabolic asshole. What do you expect? That's how you do it. But he had Gewurz there with him. He had Nick Khan with him, and he pointed them out. So they're leaning into the idea that here's the Rock. They're leaning into reality. Here's the Rock and all of his influence and all of his fluffers and stooges all getting hooked up. They're leaning into it, and that's smart.
And boy, by the time we get to SmackDown. But, and then that's when he popped the family tree up on the screen, and the crowd started whooping the Rock. And I'm like, this is fucking great. Who would have ever thought? But he worked with it, because the quick ones do. And the tree pops up on the screen, and he said there's only one royal family in professional wrestling. And they showed the lineage where his and Roman's grandfather were blood brothers.
Yeah, when did we ever hear that before? Have you ever heard that beginning of the story? I always heard Alpha and Sika were fans of Peter Maivia that went to the Cow Palace.
Yes.
Did you ever hear that their grandfathers made a blood oath?
No. But
okay. I didn't even notice, was Neff Maivia on there? He's really the person who should be at the top, right? Because he was the one who influenced Peter Maivia to become Peter Maivia.
Neff was not invited. And for the people now, we've gone for the younger listeners. We're just speaking gibberish now and taking it one at a time. Afa and Sika Anawahi were two Samoan fans in the Cow Palace days, San Francisco, in the mid-'60s or late, say, whenever it was, that were so not only badass, but also such huge fans of Chief Peter Maivia that they would try to beat the shit and succeed in beating the shit out of the heels on the way back from the fucking matches after hot finishes. And so finally they had to smarten them up and break them into the business, Afa and Sika, to keep them from killing the fucking boys.
Can you imagine you wrestle Peter Maivia and as soon as you leave the ring, there's just giant Samoan fans punching you as you try to get to the locker room?
And somebody look at a picture of what Afa and Sika looked like in 1972 or whatever instead of today and figure out what that would have been like. And Peter Maivia, whose real name was on the family tree, was Fanina Anderson, correct?
Correct.
But when he got into wrestling, there had only been one really Samoan wrestler of any kind of fame who had been Nef Maiva, spelled slightly differently, but the people who named Peter Maivia didn't know how to spell it, and it became Maivia, and he got much more over anyway, and then that was when you thought of a Samoan in wrestling from the early 60s on, you thought of Peter Maivia. And apparently now, maybe as a condition of, maybe Maivia went to Afa and Sika's father and said, hey, I'll train these fucking kids of yours and make them money in the wrestling business if they won't kill all of our heels, and you and I could be blood brothers.
Yeah, maybe. They also left off like 20 of Soul Man's kids from the lineage up there.
Yeah, well, there was...
The many, many illegitimate children of Rocky Johnson all over the place. And legitimate.
There was never any complete proof of that, was there?
Other than DNA and... No, nothing, no.
Well, no, but they didn't have room on the giant Titantron. But nevertheless,
it's a good concept,
the
though.
Anawahi
getting away from
Maivia branches.
Yeah, getting away from the reality of it. It was a good, for the way things went, and kind of The Rock leaning into the Will Smith thing of don't say anything about my family or I'll slap you.
Yeah,
it made sense because you had to get from The Rock and Roman being at each other to them being on the same side, and it worked.
And that's the thing, is there were so many names there, and you saw enough of them if you freeze framed it, and I'm sure a bunch of the video technicians out there did, and tried to read. It was legitimate in terms of not only a lot of or all of the wrestlers or wrestling connected family members, but just the rest of the family members, not including everybody, as you mentioned, but the official ones. And down at the bottom was Jacob Fatu.
That was interesting that they included his name, because there were names that were not on there. Not everyone's name who has been in wrestling from that family, I don't think, was on there.
I couldn't find it. I didn't get a shot of everything. So
was Manu?
See everything.
I didn't look for Manu, my favorite of all the obscure ones who popped up.
I did that. I thought I saw him.
I got to check. But Jacob Fatu was pretty prominent because it was towards the bottom, so it was almost close to the where the head of the person talking in front of it would be. He's a free agent. I guess Booker T's helping him out. And they're saying that he wants to sign somewhere. And he can work.
Oh, boy, howdy. But anyway, so...
New ownership may not care about legal issues the way Vince did. I mean, UFC has plenty of reprobates on their roster, don't they?
Yes. Well, including the Dana White. Hey, honey, come here. Power slap. There's no problem there. So anyway, but then The Rock versus Roman Reigns is the biggest WrestleMania match ever. That's what The Rock is saying. If you don't think that, it doesn't matter what you think. Blah, blah, blah. And The Rock and Roman Reigns do the handshake and a slight hug. And then suddenly Cody, with no music and no introduction, Cody just comes out on stage and says, no. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. And gets a huge fucking pop. And now suddenly that Cody has come out and is addressing them, Rock switches over and is standing on the side with Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. And Cody fires up and says, hey, the choice is mine. I won the Royal Rumble. And my decision is at WrestleMania 40, I choose Roman Reigns. And that got a big pop. And here comes Aldis and Pierce and Triple H are running out. And Roman has said, you're old news. Go to the loser bracket. Nobody cares, right? Blah, blah, blah.
Rollins hanging in the back the whole time, paying attention. Seriously.
Yes.
And I thought that added a lot to this.
And he's technically, even though he's hanging back, he's on Cody's side over there. And as Roman is knocking Dusty then, Cody fires back and says, hey, your family are yes men and goons. And if your grandfather or Peter Maivia would be here now, they'd be ashamed of you. And then The Rock steps up to Cody. Oh, no, wait a minute. When you talk about his family, you're talking about mine. You talk about his blood, you're talking about my blood. So now we have a problem. And Rock hauls off and slaps Cody.
That's Will Smith. I think that's where he got that from.
Well, there you go. Might be the closest Rock comes to the Oscar ceremony again these days. But
I'm a bad influence on you.
Well, you are. But I mean, I don't know he's going to get nominated for this work, but it's going to draw some money. But so that he slaps Cody and everybody reacts. And Heyman was they got freeze frames on Twitter of Heyman's face. It was incredible. And so now they're trying to hold Cody back and he's taken out and Seth leaves, with him and Rock stays out on the stage with Roman and Paul and they go to the announcers to try to make sense of this. And did you notice that Big E said, I don't know, what are we trying to set up here? A tag? And all of a sudden you see on his face, somebody told him in his ear, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up or you're fucking fired. Because they didn't want to lead him down that road yet. So there was no more mention of that. But I love it because he hasn't any experience with it. What are we trying to build here?
I thought Big E was kind of really good on this because he was reacting almost as if there was no headset for everything the whole time they asked him. He was giving real reactions or real thoughts, or at least they seemed like it. So it was really effective.
In this case, he really was confused. He didn't know what the fuck was going on.
And Triple H set up the tag match at the very beginning when he was going over the history of the first WrestleMania and how it was a tag match there. And the other thing about the desk, McAfee was fine. Michael Cole did really well. At the very end especially, CM Punk stole the show because of two things. One, CM Punk talking about how someone slapped you, I would punch him right in the face. And The Rock is in the background on the stage without a microphone. And you see his reaction instantly when he hears what Punk says. And then you just see him mouthing things at Punk. It was amazing. It was so good. And then Punk talking about his theories of punching people in the face.
Well, yeah, because now they're saying, well, hey, The Rock's on the board of directors. He's the boss of it. And Punk says, well, I don't care if it's me. As somebody fucking slaps me, if it's my boss, I'm whipping everybody's ass. Oh my God. That was, again, for the fans, and for those who know, they know.
So Punk was really good. I thought the panel was really good, and it worked well the way they used it, but that wasn't the end because then we get Triple H in the back.
Well, and that's the thing is the panel is killing time, and you think they're wrapping up, and then they do go to Triple H in the back, the ramp leading to, the parking area, whatever. And right as he started to talk, well, you've got these guys, they've just lost control. Here comes Rock and Roman and Heyman walking together, well, Heyman toadying in the back, and they pass Triple H, and The Rock says, fix it. Fix this, or we will. And there was he said some fucking guy, he used the F word, and they bleeped that. And they walk off together. So now it's Rock and Roman in some kind of super tribal summit. And he has slapped Cody Rhodes in the face. We have been promised Cody versus Roman at WrestleMania. And as we'll talk about when we get to SmackDown, they're now teasing the fact that The Rock has pull, but that there's Triple H is going to push back on the pull, and you got CM Punk out there saying this was a quote: "Personal issues can be solved when men fight," and that's what everybody wants to see, is all these fuckers fighting each other.
This was a fantastic event. It left you wanting more, wanting to see what's going to happen. I will say, I hope they don't go too heavy into bad authority figure versus good authority figure. I don't know how they're going to thread the needle to get to WrestleMania, but this is incredibly promising. Heel Rock, you also have to be careful he doesn't overshadow Roman.
Yeah.
Because how's Roman the leader of the bloodline if The Rock is right next to him, unless Rock says you're the leader? But this is great stuff.
Well, they may have to still settle that later on, but in the meantime, their family has been disrespected. So could
And
there
Rock,
be...
And The Rock in a tag match, less likely to get hurt than in a singles match.
There you go. But when would that tag team match be?
One of the nights of WrestleMania, you would think.
Well, maybe or maybe not. We don't know what the fuck's going on here, do we, for once?
They're not booked for Elimination Chamber, and that's in a couple of weeks. They're not going to rush something like that, you wouldn't think. We'll see. I mean, we still don't know any of the main events for WrestleMania are.
It's a fluid situation. Well, we know that Cody gets Roman.
That's right.
Brody and Coleman, this is a fluid situation. Yeah, whatever. Yes, whatever we just said. But this is a fluid situation because they're still making it up as they go along based on the last shit not working. But so far, it's fucking great.